Hi, I'm the political geek that is Martin Curtis, and this is Change from the Centre. Today, I'm going to talk about the Greenland crisis that's ongoing. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the situation. I think there are other people that are doing that. You can watch Revolving News Media, as I do incessantly, and make your own minds up about that. I want to talk really about something that I think is missing from the UK news media, um, and that is about some of the checks and balances that exist in the American system. Because at the moment, if you read and listen to everything that's being said, it's almost pushing the idea that this is all about whether Trump says it happens or it doesn't. And it's not entirely that by well, it's not that by any means, I don't think. There are certainly places where if this is fundamentally wrong, it can and will be stopped. And when I've done that, and get onto that in a minute, I want to just reflect on Mike Johnson's speech to the Houses of Parliament. And I'm not going to do it for long. I'm going to play a very short clip, just because I think it sets America and the West's perception of America into some context. And this is only going to be a short video, by the way. I'm not going to do this forever because I don't think it needs it. Is the reality. But the first of those checks and balances is the American Congress. And there are a number of places where Trump is open to challenge within Congress. First of all, it is unlikely that Trump can just cite his presidential powers and send troops, military into Greenland just off his own back. And the reason for that is that this is a situation that the Americans have known about, and Trump's intentions have been known about for some time. It's not a sudden change in circumstances at all. And so it's arguable that he's not allowed to do that. And I believe there are some moves afoot in America and in Congress to actually put something in place that strengthens that. But even if he did that, he couldn't annex Greenland forever without Congress having a say by funding it, as an example, but also by supporting it. I think beyond 3 months, he would have to get it supported. And if it came to treaties of any sort that involved Greenland, then I believe it needs a 2/3 majority. So there are quite a few checks and balances there. And it's worth stressing that when it comes to Greenland, it's certainly not just a Republican versus Democrat thing. At the moment, the balance in America is, I believe, 53 in the Senate is 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats. So a difference of 8, which would just take 5 people to swing it, to change the balance. And there are at least 9 Republicans that have come out and questioned the wisdom of what Trump is trying to do. And if there are 9 that have actually spoken about it, you can be pretty sure there's a load of others. I suspect there'd have been a load more if we'd have been on the other side of the midterms, which are on later on this year. But also, there will be a load more if they start to believe that annexation of Greenland is and the topic and the debate around it is going to negatively affect their chances during the midterms. So we'll see. The other potential check and balance is actually through the US military. The American military are constitutionally set up different to ours. And I know this for 2 reasons. I'm ex-military and from a military family, but also that I worked for the American Air Force for a number of years as well as a civil servant. And when I joined up, I signed an allegiance, an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen and her heirs and successors, which is how you govern the fact that we obviously lost the Queen and gained King Charles III. So that's what I did. In America, they do not sign an oath of allegiance to the President of the United States. They sign an oath of allegiance to the American Constitution. It's really important, and I think quite a powerful difference. And it's part of the reason why, and there's many other reasons why, a written constitution might be a good thing for the UK. Well, let's set that aside. The fundamental part of that is that just because Trump says bang doesn't mean that the military have to say yes, sir. You know, if Trump says go, if they believe something is fundamentally unconstitutional and legally questionable, they have a right, and it's an expectation that they will not take controversial action without getting legal advice, and they do that, as I understand it, through the Judge Advocate General. But there is an expectation there, and I think, without going into depths of what and how, not least because I've not hugely researched it, but in the worst circumstances that can mean prison, but in other circumstances it can certainly be career ending, and so that's another check and balance. And the point for me is, it's not just that those checks and balances exist, and it's nice to be able to let people know that they do exist. I suspect most people know anyway, because there are little hints of them out and about, you know, in Sky News. They're sort of dropped in different places. But those checks and balances are pretty significant, and it means that if Trump tries to do something that is unconstitutional, he can be stopped. And is potentially stopped. And I would argue that with the revolving news media that we've got, that they have opportunity to fit in stories that talk about how the American system only has to be 5 or 10 minutes, but how the American system might get in the way of Trump trying to do this, and do it in an unconstitutional way. I actually don't think he's going to, by the way. I think a deal will be done, but those checks and balances are there, and our media need to be talking about them so people understand and fit Trump into that context. And that's the bit that's important. So I said I'd finish with a little clip from Mike Johnson from his speech today. I thought his speech to the House of Parliament were very good, actually very conciliatory, and I thought it set a really, really good tone if they wanted to change the way this debate about Greenland was going to happen. But there was one little phrase, it's only a few seconds long, that I thought said quite a lot.
It is an objective and obvious truth that a strong America is good for the entire world, and a strong UK is as well.
So that point about a strong America, now I would argue that that phrase should read a strong and just America, because you could take America out of that. Sorry, and a strong and just UK, by the way. You could take America out of that and say a strong Russia, a strong China. But actually, what you really should mean is a strong and just America, because that sets them apart from Russia. It sets them apart from China. And that is the big issue at the moment, that people are seeing similarities between the way Trump is behaving. And I say Trump because it's not America. And, you know, Trump is only going to be a 4-year president this term. You know, so there will be life after Trump. And we have to remember that. And that's part of the reason why we have to get the diplomatic dance absolutely right. But I think the fact that America is operating through strength alone without a sense of justice is exactly how a huge portion of the Western world see America. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've got something from it, at least some food for thought. I've done another video about how I believe the UK could do a few things to speed up the way we're delivering our defence spending, and turning our defense spending from a point where we're spending on building infrastructure to a point where we're delivering actually defense outcomes quicker, which is something we desperately need to do. I'll put a link for that in the description. If you like what I've said, please like and subscribe. You know those things. You've seen and heard them before if you watch enough YouTube videos. And if you comment, I promise I'll try. I don't know if that's helpful, but I will try and come back and respond to comments as well. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it.